see you, and congratulations.
Thank you.
You will never forget what is going on in the world when you think about when your child was born. You will know for the rest of this child's life, you were born during a weird time.
That's for sure.
That is for sure. Probably the weirdest that I can remember.
And he was born on May the 4th.
And that's hilarious too.
Yeah, it's good.
May the 4th be with him.
Yeah, exactly.
It has to be.
I sure hope so.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the perfect day for you. How do you say the name?
Well,
is it a placeholder?
And first of all, my partner is the one that actually mostly came up with the name.
Congratulations to her.
Yeah, she's great at name. It's just X, the letter X, and then the AE is like pronounced Ash. And then A12. A12 is my contribution.
Oh, why A12?
Archangel 12, the precursor to the SR-71, coolest plane ever. It's true.
I agree with you.
This evening's session at the Financial Times Future of the Car Summit 2022. We're very glad you can be with us, whether you're here in the room in central London or joining us on our global live stream. My name is Peter Campbell. I'm the Global Motor Industry Correspondent at the FT, and it is a great pleasure to introduce and chair this session for you. Let me tell you how this is going to work. In a few minutes, we're going to have JB Straubel back on stage and Elon Musk joining us remotely. We're just going to spend the first 10 to 15 minutes of the session talking about the history of Tesla. Now, these two guys were central to the company and its growth and everything it has achieved to date, and they have never before appeared on stage together to talk about the origins of the business. So this is a unique chance to ask them about that and hear about that. And then for the rest of the session, we're going to have time just with Elon on his own, where we'll have questions about Tesla today and tomorrow, and maybe one or two questions about some other projects he has going on. Just a reminder to you, please do ask your questions on the chat box, or if you're in the room, using Slido. But with no further ado, because of all our guests, here's the one who needs least introduction. I'd like you to welcome back to the stage JB Straubel, and joining us remotely, Elon Musk. Good evening. Thank you so much for being with us, both of you. I want to go back to something that was alluded to earlier in the session, and the lunch that changed the world, as Patrick called it, when the two of you sat down and came up with a plan that led to Tesla. Take us through that. Who started it? Whose idea was the lunch? Where did it go? Elon, we'd love you to start.
Sure. Well, actually, and JB, simply, I think it'd be good to hear JB's perspective as well. I got a call, somewhat out of the blue, from JB and Rosen, I think I'm not sure exactly what the subject matter was, but it's something involving space or maybe hydrogen airplanes or something. And so we got together for lunch, and at some point the conversation turned to electric vehicles, and JB and Rosen had both worked on an electric vehicle company that I guess ultimately wasn't successful, and I mentioned that I'd actually had a strong interest in electric vehicles for a long time, and thought electric vehicles were the future of transport.
Today, I want to tell you 3 stories from my life. That's it. No big deal. Just 3 stories. The first story is about connecting the dots. I dropped out of Reed College after the first 6 months, but then stayed around as a drop-in for another 18 months or so before I really quit. So why'd I drop out? It started before I was born. My biological mother was a young, unwed graduate student, and she decided to put me up for adoption. She felt very strongly that I should be adopted by college graduates, so everything was all set for me to be adopted at birth by a lawyer and his wife. Except that when I popped out, they decided at the last minute that they really wanted a girl. would say is, when you grow up, you tend to get told that the world is the way it is, and your life is just to live your life inside the world, try not to bash into the walls too much, try to have a nice family life, have fun, save a little money. But life, that's a very limited life. Life can be much broader once you discover one simple fact, and that is everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you. And you can change it, you can influence it, you can build your own things that other people do. And the minute that you understand that you can poke life and actually something will, you push in, something will pop out the other side. You can change it, you can mold it. That's maybe the most important thing, is to shake off this erroneous notion that life is there and you're just going to live it, versus embrace it, change it, improve it, make your mark upon it. I think that's very important. And however you learn that, once you learn it, you'll want to change life and make it better, because it's kind of messed up in a lot of ways. Once you learn that, you'll never be the same again. Most people don't get those experiences because they never ask. I've never found anybody that didn't want to help me if I asked them for help. I always call them up. I called up, this will date me, but I called up Bill Hewlett when I was 12 years old, and he lived in Palo Alto. His number was still in the phone book. And he answered the phone himself. Yes? He said, "Hi, I'm Steve Jobs. I'm 12 years old. I'm a student in high school, and I want to build a frequency counter. And I was wondering if you had any spare parts I could have." And he laughed, and he gave me the spare parts to build this frequency counter, and he gave me a job that summer in Hewlett-Packard, working on the assembly line, putting nuts and bolts together on frequency counters. He got me a job in the place that built them. And I was in heaven. And I've never found anyone who said no or hung up the phone when I called. I just asked. And when people ask me, I try to be as responsive, to pay that debt of gratitude back. Most people never pick up the phone and call. Most people never ask, and that's what separates. There needs to be someone who is sort of the keeper and reiterator of the vision. The thing I would say is, when you grow up, you tend to get told that the world is the way it is, and your life is just to live your life inside the world, try not to bash into the walls too much, try to have a nice family life. The thing I would say is, when you grow up, you tend to get told that the world is the way it is, and your life is just to live your life. Today, I want to tell you 3 stories from my life. That's it. No big deal. Just 3 stories. The first story is about connecting the dots. I dropped out of Reed College after the first 6 months, but then stayed around as a drop-in for another 18 months or so before I really quit. So why'd I drop out? It started before I was born. My biological mother was a young, unwed graduate student, and she decided to put me up for adoption. She felt very strongly that I should be adopted by college graduates, so everything was all set for me to be adopted at birth by a lawyer and his wife. Except that when I popped out, they decided at the last minute that they really wanted a girl. So my parents, who